Hi friends, welcome back to the Bright Side of Beauty podcast presented by Beyond Skin Aesthetics. Today I am joined by a super fun esthetician, business owner, entrepreneur guest. But before I introduce her, I want to give you a little housekeeping update. We are actually switching to bi-weekly episodes. If you listened to a couple episodes back of me talking about my daily routine, one of the Q&A episodes that I did at the beginning of the year, you know, life is a little bit chaotic right now. And truthfully, this is one of my favorite things that I do, and I didn't want to burn out from it. So I'm taking a step back. We're going to do bi-weekly episodes so that fire still is there, and I'm bringing you quality content every time that you click play. So without further ado, I would like to welcome today's guest, Sarika. Sarika, thank you for joining me on the Bright Side of Beauty podcast today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I feel like we have so much to talk about because we are both Esties. We are both business owners. We're both speakers in the industry. We have friends in common, which is how we actually got connected, is from a couple of our previous guests that were on. And I just am excited to see where this conversation goes. I would love to start with, can you give us a little introduction into who you are, how you got into the industry? Just start from the beginning. Give us the whole story.
Okay, so it's kind of a lengthy story, so please buckle up and grab a drink. So my name is Sarika Diaz. I am a licensed esthetician and laser professional. I live in Houston, Texas. I have been a practicing esthetician this will be my 17th year. And I've been a laser professional for going on 11 years. I started in the spa industry. My aunt used to own a day spa here in Houston. So when I was in high school and growing up, I kind of just was dumped there in the summers, and that was my summer job, doing miscellaneous things around the spa. And after I graduated high school, I didn't really quite know what I wanted to do, but my aunt told me, you've always been really good at the spa. You get along with the customers, and have you ever thought about going into that? And she's a massage therapist. I was like, ew, no, I don't think I can massage people's all day long. I don't see myself doing that. And then I was like, well, who makes the best living in your spa? And she's like, my estheticians tend to make the best living. And I was like, okay, I could massage some faces, and I like skincare, and I was doing all the things to myself anyways. So I went to esthetician school. Over my career, I've worked in a really wide variety of offices, ranging from luxury day spas to award-winning plastic surgeons' offices. And after I'd been in the field for about 14 years, I decided to go out on my own. So I opened my practice, True Skin Aesthetics, about 2.5 years ago. True Skin will actually be turning 3 in April. And then shortly before I had actually opened my spa, I had become an instructor. So I do also teach laser didactic for a local laser school here in Houston. And then when I opened the office, I actually became a laser trainer with Sciton lasers. So, and I also have done some other training things with Glytone chemical peels before they were purchased by another company. And then I also am an Alastin esthetician. So I'm one of 27 in the nation selected to be on their first estheticians advisory board. Additionally to that, I speak on podium at Science of Skin Summit and a co-chair. So I help to organize that meeting with Renee Rouleau. And I love doing peer-to-peer education, helping support my estheticians in any way. I feel like sharing my story and any of my journey, if that could help somebody else. I can't say that I've got it all figured out. There's a lot of things that I do still trial and error to try to figure things out. But I feel like in our industry, it's just if I can help anybody any way that I can, I want to do so. And then in the practice, here in Houston, it's a really diverse city. I think we're one of the most diverse cities in the nation. So I would say predominantly my focus in practice is treating corrective skincare, treating skin of color.
There is so much to dive into with that. I would love to start with you were an employee for 14 years and then you went out on your own. And what would you say is the biggest difference for you between being an employee versus being a business owner as an esthetician? And do you feel like you had a learning curve or I guess more of a mental block to get past being an esthetician? Because I think that there is this stigma that estheticians can't necessarily own their own businesses. They have to work for somebody or they have to be in basically a soulless salon suites. situation. So
Right.
what kind of barriers do you feel like you broke through, and what's the difference between being an employee versus being a business owner now?
So, I mean, that there's a lot. Where do I start with this? First of all, I think it's our mindset, right? We are able to accomplish whatever we set our minds to. It took me personally the longest time to believe in myself. I had colleagues, I had clients, my husband, people have been telling me for years, Sarika, what are you doing working for somebody else? You need to go open up your own thing. You need to do. And I used to tell them, no, I don't want to do that. I love what I do. I just want to come to work. I want to clock in. I want to see my clients. I want to do my job. And then I just want to go home. I don't want to deal with like all the other back office stuff and the responsibilities of running a business. Until one day it changed. A big change for a lot of people was COVID. COVID happened, and the office that I was working in, furloughed the entire staff. Up until that point, I felt like a really valued employee, and that COVID kind of brought the worst colors out in certain people, and I felt really disposable. Here I had worked at that particular office for like 6.5 years. I was a department head. I was in charge of onboarding and training all of the new hires. And then kind of just felt tossed to the side. And I thought to myself, you know what? Like, I work really, really effing hard for this guy, and he doesn't seem to care. And I knew my self-worth was more. So when COVID happened and I went back to that same job, because finding a job in the middle of COVID wasn't great, I just kind of put in my head, you know what are some steps that I need to put in motion in order to try to be my own boss one day? So I ended up, seeking another job that would allow me the flexibility and the time to wrap my head around everything that needed to be done in order to open up my own business. Like, write my business plan, do my research on products, figure out what lines do I want to carry. Can I afford it? Like, I had to think, okay, my base clientele, I see XYZ amount of clients. This is how much roughly I'm charging. This is how much roughly I'm making a month. Can I live off of that? Can I sustain a business off of that? I'm fortunate that my husband, we can afford to live off of his salary. But I understand not everybody's situation is like that. So I just had to crunch those numbers and see, is this something that makes sense? What can I afford? And I did start in a salon suite. My very first treatment room was a whopping 96 square feet. Yeah. It is a tiny, like, Harry Potter closet is what I kind of call it. And I worked in that treatment room. It was a tight squeeze, but I worked in that treatment room for 1.5 years until I was at a point where I could afford to buy a second laser. Then I moved into a bigger room in the forward part of the salons by JC. My second treatment room, wait for this, 167 square feet.
Wow, big jump.
It seemed like it at the time. And then about 2 months ago, I moved into my new office. So my new office now is almost 1,600 square feet. I have 5 treatment rooms. I have a consultation room, a lobby, like a very formal clinic intensive layout. And now I'm at a point where I'm able to finally start building my dream team, which represents what TrueSkin is about, serving our clients, delivering exceptional service, results-driven treatment plans with transparency and science backing for all skin colors.
What I love about that is that you believed in yourself, that you had the support behind the scenes from your friends and family that saw something in you already. You just had to believe in yourself to finally take that step. But you thought through it strategically. You thought through, what are the steps that I need to take? You knew your numbers. You backed into, can I make a living off of this? Is this actually a business? And I think that the beauty of a salon suite is that you are able to get your footing and launch your business in a way. And some people have beautiful, long, thriving careers inside of their own suite in that way. But what I love is that you were always thinking about the next step in that growth, and you took those little steps as you went. And our story at Beyond Skin Aesthetics is pretty similar, actually. We started with basically an office of one treatment room. So we had a lobby in one treatment room, grew to then 3 treatment rooms, and now we have 12 treatment rooms. And so it was a stair step. We didn't jump into 12 treatment rooms, of course. It was definitely a stair step situation. And I love that you thought through what that was going to look like and what true skin was going to look like and what true skin embodies before bringing on your dream team. How has that process gone with have you hired anybody on yet?
Yeah, so I hired an admin when I was still in my old office, so like maybe a month before I knew I was moving. So while I was still doing the renovations for my current practice. And then I just hired like a week ago my first actual esthetician provider. So we're onboarding her and she's shadowing me in the practice, and I'm clearing her for treatments so she can gradually start to see her own clients. I'm very particular. I have a brand standard and certain methods that I want to uphold. And so I was very transparent with her. Look, your onboarding is not going to be just like this. Like your other jobs, I'm sure you've worked that they just throw you to the wolves and you're going to go see clients on day one. Like that's not what's happening here, because I have a reputation. I was voted by Houston Chronicle best of the best in 3 categories last year as a solo provider. I beat out other large practices that are like private equity owned. And
that's incredible.
So I have the recognition from Houstonians, and people expect a certain level of service. I have to make sure she can deliver that same thing.
Absolutely.
The hiring process is difficult, especially when you're very picky. But eventually the right people come along. You just have to have faith.
What is your opinion on setting that standard and standardizing training in a way? Because I feel like one of the beautiful parts about the aesthetics industry is that there is a little bit of artistic flair based on the provider. But to your point, you have to have a standard for your business and a consistency so that it's not, if somebody sees 2 different providers, it's a completely different experience and expectation from those 2 providers. But yet, they still kind of find their home. So what is your opinion on, I guess, how streamlined that training process should be and strenuous versus allowing them to have their flair? Like what kind of wiggle room do you feel like providers should have inside of a practice?
Right. So I think the things that they could have their own flair on is like the more luxurious treatments, right? Whether like the facials or like we're going to be bringing in Diamond Glow pretty soon. So, and then I understand communication. So the way that I speak to a patient or client is going to be different than the way that she speaks. They should be aligned. But I know the way I talk to my clients is very technical. And not everybody is the right client for me, and I'm not the right provider for everybody. So I think it can also boil down to personality types. I can be very direct, and sometimes people they like something a little softer. So I think that that's where we can have we're our own people, right? But at the end of the day, what our safety standards are, where you understand your parameters for the devices, where you can kind of push a little bit or when to push based upon the clinical endpoints that you're observing with the skin, and maybe when you're treatment stacking. So those are some harder stop rules surrounding those type of things versus just like, I guess, the massage technique when you're cleansing versus eye makeup removal, or I think those are a little softer than the other things.
Absolutely. I was laughing a little bit as you were explaining that because I feel like you're the perfect blend between Katie, one of our co-founders and my fellow skin expert at our practice, and she's definitely more direct and I'm a little bit softer in my approach. However, we're both very technical, but the way that we explain the technicalities is completely different. So to us, the breakdown of even just where our patients land between the 2 of us, it kind of naturally happens because we're so different, but yet unified on how we treat the skin and our safety standards. I love that explanation. I completely agree with you. The safety standards have to be uniform across the board, no matter what. And honestly, that should be an industry standard that is upheld.
But unfortunately, it's not.
Which
And
is
that's the
crazy.
scariest thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I found through my interview process, so many of these estheticians would say, I have 5 years of laser experience. But then when I'm sitting down and I'm interviewing them and I'm asking them, okay, I'm going to ask you a series of technical questions to gauge your competency surrounding lasers. And I ask them, and like some of them can't give me definitions of like, what is a Hertz rate? What does your pulse width mean? How is your fluence measured? Is it joule centimeter squared? Like they can't, maybe because I'm an educator, I'm kind of like a stickler for some of these things, but I really feel that foundational knowledge is so key to being a successful and safe and efficacious provider.
I am so intrigued to pick your brain on this. So you are an educator there in Houston. You are a laser educator, correct? Is it like a laser
Sciton
academy?
Lasers.
With Sciton?
They call us luminaries, another kind of word for key opinion leader. So with Sciton, I have been sent to other practices that like purchase some of their devices. And I feel that I'm best used in a practice that's had their device for maybe about 6 months and they're a little familiar with it. So I can come in and help them troubleshoot, like maybe where they're struggling, whether that be with difficult cases or their technique, to help them fine tune and maximize that device in their practice. With Sciton, I don't like doing the first round of education because I feel like I'm way better at helping you fine tune those skills to be the most successful practice they can be. And then they host like smaller educational things like supper clubs where we are more local and people come together to learn. I've done some speaking for them there. And then last year at Science of Skin, I actually performed a demo on stage with one of their devices as well.
Don't you teach at a local school as well?
Yeah. So at the school's name is Levita Aesthetics Institute. They're here in Houston. They do licensing for laser hair removal providers. Every state is different. So they have to have an actual license to perform laser treatments in Texas. And then they'll do like more day certification courses. So like somebody wants to add on to their basic laser knowledge. They want to do an IPL course. They want to do a body contouring course. They want to learn radiofrequency skin tightening. I've moved away from teaching the full licensing courses because those are multiple day courses. And now that I have True Skin Aesthetics, it's really difficult for me to commit multiple days in a row to them. So I've transitioned into doing some of the more certification courses.
What do you feel like the landscape is like in Texas as regulations are shifting a little bit from the laser front? Do you feel like the laser front is shifting along with the other kind of regulations that are being put in place right now? We're in a weird place. I feel like Texas is definitely under fire for who can do what and under the microscope.
So Texas and I know California were two big states that a lot of the rest of the nation looks at as far as like trajectory of where our industry is going. Mm-hmm. I think that as far as laser providers, I think it's good that we be licensed. I don't think that anybody should just be able to pick up a laser and just go to town. I foresee it definitely us having to be a licensed professional and then under doctor supervision to some degree. Of course, we need to do our good faith exams and make sure patients are cleared for treatment. They're not taking medications or have allergies that like is going to contraindicate. But it's what I notice more so is that like the heavier fire things tend to come into effect with the injectables or like the IV therapies. Not as much lasers. Maybe it'll get there eventually, but I just see a lot hotter focus on like the injections and IV.
So Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the country, and I'm sure your patient population is very diverse as well. What would you say is your ratio and like where's your passion at True Skin? What kind of patient is your ideal patient?
Yeah, I'd say about like 80 to 85% of my patient population is skin of color, whether they're African-American, Hispanic, Asian, or like myself, I'm biracial. So my dad is Caucasian and my mom is Chinese. I struggled with my own issues with my skin and trying to figure out, because like since I'm mixed, my skin isn't always going to act Caucasian and my skin isn't always going to act, Chinese. So I have to figure out what are the ways that I can still safely treat myself. So my passion for caring for minority populations stems from my trying to figure out my own care. And you would think that in a city as diverse as Houston, that we would have more multicultural skincare specialists, but we really don't.
Really?
I have really. I have clients that come to consult with me and they're like, yeah, I wanted to come and see you because you're very open about being, multicultural skincare specialist. You're treating skin of color. You're educating on this. The before and after photos that you have are predominantly skin of color. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's my bread and butter. But there's not too many of us.
That is just, we are in 2026, people. I feel like as providers, we should be educating ourselves on how to treat across all different cultures, of making sure that we have safe, efficacious treatments for them. And that is just, especially in Houston, that is wild to me. I feel like in the Midwest, we definitely have pockets where you do not have any diversity, and then very diverse populations. And being in the state capital, we are very diverse, and our practice is a very diverse practice. But we do hear that sometimes. And I think that two different lanes that people are scared of as providers, that providers are scared of, is treating reds, scared of rosacea, and then treating skin of color. And it's just like, I'm not going to touch either one of those. If you are Caucasian with normal skin, come in, we can do everything, but that is where my safety line is at. And there definitely needs to be an expansion of treating skin of color safely as well. One of the things that I think is most important with treating skin of color is making sure that we are prepping the skin. And I know that that's something you're very passionate about as well. So let's talk about that. What is your stance on prepping ahead of time before you get those laser treatments or microneedling or whatever it may be?
It's 100% necessary to avoid complication. My skincare brand of choice for preparation is Alastin. They have a very simple but straightforward product line. They don't have things that aren't necessary. So it helps me as a provider simplify a prep routine. I think that before I ever get into more advanced treatments, patients need to be on a medical grade skincare routine. And it doesn't have to be like super, 10 steps or anything like that. I prefer clients to be on a good cleanser morning and evening, an antioxidant in the morning. If they are skin of color and then they have pigmentary problems, I like them to be on a brightening product like the Alastin's Illuminate, followed by an SPF. At nighttime, I try to keep it as simple as possible as well. So again, going back to some of our foundational basics, cleanser, a retinoid, and then their brightener, and then a moisturizer. Prior to a treatment, I'll have them stop the retinoid maybe about 5 to 7 days. And then, they'll use the specific post-care products for like the week after the procedure, going back into their regular routine. But it's so important to make sure the skin's prepped. I like to talk to my clients and even like baby Esties by giving them an analogy. So I tell them, look, you didn't wake up today and decide to go run a marathon tomorrow, would you? And they're like, no, of course not. I'm like, why not? And they're like, because like, I'm not fit for that. And like, I wouldn't make a good running time, or like I could hurt myself. I'm like, exactly. The skin is the same way. So we have to make sure that your skin is fit enough to tolerate the stress of a treatment in order to set ourselves up for success and the best results possible. So that's why I'm going to take at least 3 to 4 weeks, making sure they're on a solid regimen. Maybe I do a facial in between there. But before we get into things heavier like peels, microneedling, or lasers, we have to prep that skin and train it in order to withstand the more aggressive treatments.
That was so beautifully said. I love that. What treatments are your favorite that you are doing for treating skin of color specifically?
Oh, Moxie.
Yeah?
I love Moxie. Yeah. So this is a 1927 nanometer wavelength. It is safe for skin of color because its target chromophore is water in the skin. Okay. It doesn't directly see color. So it creates these tiny little thermal injuries on the surface of the skin. creating kind of these like little micro scabs. We call them MENs, which is microscopic epithelial necrotic debris. It's a really fancy word for a scab. But all that does is it helps to purge some of the unwanted hyperpigmentations, also while smoothing the surface of the skin and stimulating collagen and elastin. After a series of that, the skin just glows as if they had like a filter.
I love that. What is your post-care that you are setting your patients up with when they are done with the Moxie or any other treatment? But since we're talking about Moxie afterwards.
Sure, yeah. So I kind of tell patients, look, after a day or two, you're going to go through a phase, which I lovingly call the lizard lady phase, when the skin starts to kind of scab. Yeah, they look at me like, what? And I'm like, yeah, you're going to know what I'm talking about when you feel like you're the lizard lady, because the skin starts to get like kind of rough. You feel dry like sandpaper. And then all this stuff starts to like flake off and you're like molting like a lizard. So I like them to use a creamy cleanser. The Alastin's Gentle Creamy Cleanser is my preference, followed by something that's hydrating, like their HA Immerse. If it's a really aggressive treatment, like if I'm trying to push settings, I make sure for 100% that they're using the Alastin Nectar as well. Mm-hmm. And then their ultralight moisturizer, and then one of their mineral sunscreens.
In our practice, Nectar, Soothe and Protect Balm, and post-injection serum is like staples. We could never, they have a chokehold on us, to be honest. Like,
yeah,
they are
it's
just
so good.
Staples.
And I am
a
junkie. I love so many different brands and products, and I've tried everything on myself at some point or another. And I just simply can't find anything better for post-care than Alastin, the way that you feel, how quickly it helps support your skin. I do like some exosome boosters, but as far as like a full, complete regimen, Alastin is one of my favorites.
Okay, drop your favorites. What's your favorite exosome booster?
So I've been utilizing Invo Aesthetics boosters in the office after Moxie, and as a serum for their microneedling. They also have a really interesting take-home product that I'll have my patients on. Occasionally when and I like that because I can have them use it post-procedure and then integrate it into a regular skincare regimen. Whereas like Nectar, it's more so of like a pre and post, but you switch them, into like restorative skin complex because it's more hydrating. You don't want them on Nectar forever, but I kind of dabble with some of that too with the exosome boosters.
I want to go back to Alastin here in a second, but while we're on the topic of just favorites in general, what skincare lines do you currently carry?
So I have Alastin, Skin Better Science, Epicutis, the one take-home product SKU from Invo Aesthetics. I do carry a couple SKUs from Aven and Ourself Skincare, one of my new favorites.
Yes.
We love them. And some of the Elta MD sunscreens. So I have a very wide variety, and I don't carry a whole line of any of them. I like to cherry pick what I feel, number one, there's client demand for. And number two, what plays well in the sandbox. Because I want to have the ability to recommend a cleanser from here and a brightener from here and a vitamin C from here, and understand that they can be different brands, but they still are going to go well, and they're not going to give any adverse events.
Absolutely. So important how they're going to interact with each other. I think that there are a lot of providers that believe they play well in a sandbox. And I think that that's a great way to explain it. However, they just take that at face value versus really knowing what that means. And even though they play well in the sandbox with others, you do have to be careful about what you're stacking together and in what order, because it will affect the skin in a different way too. So I love your emphasis on that too, and being very selective with what you carry. And I think that there's also a beauty in simplifying what you carry to be very specific to you as a provider too. It's not saying that we don't love all of the different SKUs from these different lines, and there's definitely a patient for them, but does it make sense for your practice and your patient base and the way that you like to treat skin? So I think that there's like a beautiful harmony that you really have to think about when you're thinking about what retail you're going to carry in the office. It's definitely something that we are reevaluating in office right now too, and really streamlining
constantly. Even when new products like launch from the brands, my reps usually give me a product. I'll put it into my regimen somehow and then test it out
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not an early adopter of anything.
Yeah.
I really take my time to do my own personal research. I mean, I love my reps and they support my business in amazing ways. But their job at the end of the day is to sell, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that they're not ethical, but I, as a provider, need to do my due diligence by testing these products prior to giving them to my patients because I have to stand behind them. So, for example, those exosome products that I'm carrying, I've been testing them since last spring, and I just brought them into the office at Christmas.
Yeah.
It's taken me that long, and I'll tell them, I'm like, look, I'm not a fast sell. You need to give me the time to create my own opinions. And I promise you, if I'm down with this, I'm going to come right back to you. I will open an account, but don't push me. I need to make my own informed decisions.
That is such a wonderful point that like you do have to do your due diligence of trying out products because when products are launching, everyone's really excited and you get excited and like buy into the hype about it. But you have to see the longevity of the product to figure out how it does fit into your practice and the other products that you are using. Because even if you're using it for one whole skin cycle, it may be that second skin cycle that you start to notice, oh, wait, maybe I don't like it as much with this thing or in this way. So definitely take your time with everything. I want to go back to Alastin now that we did a little segue there on all skincare things. You were one of 27 that were invited to be a part of the first ever Alastin Esthetician Advisory Board, and that included a trip to Carlsbad, where the manufacturing facility is and the headquarters are. Tell us all about that. I have been dying to, I talked to Allie about it very briefly, but I'm dying to hear the details about everything that you got to do and some of the changes that you got to experience firsthand a couple of months ago that now we're seeing roll out with Alastin.
Yeah. So there's more things to come. I can't talk too much about the new, but I can talk to you about what's happened before. Well, the trip to Carlsbad was really just amazing. It's totally like a career highlight, and what an honor to be recognized by an international company such as Galderma and Alastin Skincare. For them to have reached out to me and tell me, Sarika, you are one of 27 in the nation, and we want you to be part of our very first Estheticians Advisory Board. I was like, what? Me? Like, serious? Like that just still blows my mind. And I'm super, super honored and grateful for that. So they got all of us girls together, sent us to their headquarters. We all met the first night at a rooftop dinner, which was really beautiful. We got to see the beautiful California sunset, got to mix and mingle and meet so many of these other passionate estheticians. And it's so refreshing to me, especially at that time, I was a solo esthetician still in my salon suite. So I don't get that much interaction with other estheticians that are as passionate about skincare as me. And sometimes being a solo is really lonely. And it's just so recharging to my batteries to be in a room full of these other brilliant estheticians. And I get to go home and better serve my patients. After we had our little mix and mingle, then the next morning we were all back, bussed from our hotels to Alastin HQ. We got some sneak peeks into what's coming up for this next year, new products and formulations. And we got to see the formulation lab, like where they're actually, doing the science and making the testers of like the new things coming out. And we got to meet more of their education team. And I'm just really excited to see what else Alastin will do as far as partnering with other device companies to showcase to the rest of our peers the technology and the beauty and the power of these products can best serve and enhance our results.
There are a couple of different formulation tweaks that we've already seen start to roll out. Can you talk a little bit about what has already come out?
Right. So the most recent relaunch was in celebration of Alastin's 10-year, they call it their anniversary. So innovation for their anniversary. Alastin turned 10 years old. And with that launch, it was the Restorative Skin Complex. So this was already a hero SKU of theirs. I kind of explain it to my patients as like, look, this is our Swiss Army knife product. She does a lot of different things in one bottle. For example, she's got really powerful antioxidants. She's got some hydrator supportive ingredients, also has their proprietary trihex peptide blend, which helps to get rid of old damaged collagen and elastin from the skin and almost fertilizes the skin to help grow new collagen and elastin. The new formula, as if the old one wasn't amazing enough, how could they even make it better? They have added oxypeptide 45, which is found in their HA Immerse serum. So this is a peptide that helps to enhance the skin's ability to maintain its own natural moisture levels over time. So it's not just an HA that's pulling hydration into the skin. It's actually helping the skin be healthier overall with maintaining its moisture levels. And then they've also added another ingredient called magnolol. This is an ingredient that helps to preserve healthy adipocytes or fat cells within our skin. So we know that a large part of our aging cascade comes from the fat pads shrinking and then sinking. So this is going to help those baby fat cells come through maturity and stay a little bit longer than they would naturally before. And also with the rise and prevalence of the GLP-1 drugs, we're seeing so many patients complain of skin laxity. So I'm really happy to have a product that is so inclusive of those cosmetic concerns. I can easily put them on this one product. I know it's going to check all of their boxes.
Absolutely. Okay. Did they do any switches to HA Immerse and C Radical yet? I feel like there was a slight change, but it wasn't necessarily announced. Did they haven't done anything to the formulation?
To my knowledge, they have other things that are in the pipeline. I'm not really allowed to elaborate on, but the one that we talk about is our rejuvenating skin complex.
Okay. Perfect. Yeah. Well, that is super, super fun. And you are obviously, I would dub you a fellow skincare nerd in a way. Like
100%. Yeah. Tattoo it on my arm.
Like, you like to get down in the weeds of what is actually going on. And one of the conferences that I am so excited to attend, you mentioned earlier, you're the co-chair of Science of Skin Summit, and it's really a dermatology focused summit previously, but they have now integrated an esthetician sector to it that you are the co-chair of in blending it together. And I love that because I think that it is so important to blend dermatological care with esthetician care. And you actually did a podcast with them on the, what do they call it? Is it the Science of Skin podcast? Is that what they call it?
Yeah, they've done a little rebranding. So yes, now Science of Skin podcast.
Yes, if you're searching it.
The Science of Skin Summit, which is the name of the
Which I think it used to be the Skincare Confidential. So now if you're searching it, Science of Skin podcast.
Rebranding so it's all more cohesive and less confusing for the consumers.
I love that. But you did a short episode with Renee at last year's to just talk about the event a little bit more and what you were doing from the Estheticianscape. Can you tell us a little bit more about the event? I'm super excited to attend this year. Can you tell us a little bit more?
I can't wait for you to come. Yeah, so Science of Skin started about 5 years ago as a dermatological only conference. About 3 years ago, they had brought in an esthetician's track. And I had attended for the first time Science of Skin 4 years ago. So when Science of Skin was only 2 years old. And I thought it was a wonderful show. To my knowledge, it's the only conference focused on the science of topical skincare products. So that's how it differs from so many other industry events. But for us, 100% skin nerds, this is like 1,000% our jam. So I got an email and it was saying they're launching an esthetician's track. And then my first thoughts were like, respectfully, well, what do dermatologists know about being an esthetician? Okay. And we're not enemies. I think we all have the same goals in mind, right, at the end of the day, but there's a lot of conflict, unnecessary conflict between derms and estheticians.
Which is so silly because it's a power alliance.
Like it is, because I don't do what they do and they don't do what I do. And in the reality, our goal is to make our patients' skin healthy and beautiful. And if we can collaborate together, it's just so much better for everybody involved. Yeah. So finally, it was so refreshing to see that dermatologists are recognizing the importance of the esthetician and then wanting to further support us by providing us sound information and education. So when I saw that email, I emailed back, and it was just generic, like info@scienceofskin.com. And I asked, like, are you looking for keynote speakers or faculty? Because there wasn't anybody listed. It was just very generic. To my surprise, I got an email back from one of the founders, Dr. Ted Lane. And he's like, yeah, let's get on a call. The next day I was on a call. And then the week after that, they were penciling me in to present. So that's really how it got started for me. I was very flattered. After the first time I spoke for them, they followed up with me and asked me to be a co-chair. And then on top of that, to co-chair with Renee Rouleau. So for those estheticians out there that are not familiar with Renee Rouleau, you should know her. I remember having a fangirl moment in the bathroom when we were presenting that first year. And I was like, hi, Renee, my name's Sarika. And I've like read your blogs and Dermoscope and like all of this stuff since I was like a baby esthetician. I just want to say hi. And she's so sweet. And she's like, oh, it's so nice to meet you. And anyways, for them to ask me to co-chair with her, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I can do this. I was like trying to get out of my imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And so Renee and I work very closely with Dr. Lane and Dr. Ferris, the two derms that host the whole meeting, to create meaningful education for other estheticians. We do our best to try to make the education applicable across the board. I don't know about you, but other conferences I've attended in the past, I felt like every talk track was sponsored by a brand.
Yeah.
And then they're only like talking about how to use their products in a protocol. Mm-hmm. And all of the information wasn't easy for me to translate into what I have in my spa. Mm-hmm. Here, majority of the education is non-brand backed. Of course, we do have a couple product theaters that speak specifically on that, but it's very like, this is sponsored by Alastin or this is sponsored by Sciton. But everything else, we want our esties to be able to actually learn and use within their practice on a day-to-day. And it's fun for us to come together. How refreshing is it to meet a whole bunch of other skin nerds? And like you and I, for example, we've had very little communication leading up to our podcast, but like us just talking, we're like immediate best friends.
Yes. Yeah. So, it's like, no, you get me. You understand me. Yes.
100%.
And is there, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a collaboration part of it as well, almost like a roundtable situation where it's like a break off where you really actually get to just collaborate with other estheticians.
Right. So like last year was the first time we had that integrated into our track, and it went really, really well. It was very well received because estheticians are people, right? Yeah. We want to be with people and talk and communicate, and we're all better at that because of things like that. So yes, last year we had little break-off sessions, like every little table was hosted by a different speaker and we all talked about slightly different things. One of them was like about retail sales. The other one, I hosted one that was about smart treatment stacking. Another one was talking about what devices or favorite things that they have in their offices and why. So a really big variety. And we haven't ironed out everything we're going to do for this next year, but I have a feeling like I'm going to advocate for us doing something like that again.
I love that. And I would love to be a part of that too. So I'm going to throw my hat in the ring there because that is totally my jam. I love just being able to talk to other providers. And I think you're absolutely right. Estheticians are people. And we're also like, when we have ideas, we want to be like, what do you think about this? And what if we did this? And what if we did that? And have you thought of it this way? And so having that opportunity to really collaborate together is absolutely huge. And I cannot wait to attend. That is so amazing.
It's a party. So like you got to bring your boots. I don't know in Ohio if you wear boots, but we're going to be in Austin. So bring your boots. And your cowboy hat?
Yes. I am absolutely known for always having my cowgirl boots on, like pretty much everywhere that I go. So definitely I'll have them ready. Last year when I went to Aesthetic Next, I had 5 different colors of cowboy boots that I brought with me because you need a different color for every outfit. So
you do. And glitter.
Yes. You need it to be a fashion show. It has to be. And typically we're in scrubs and we're in the treatment room too. So I feel like this is also our opportunity to be like, okay, here's my creative flair coming out in my clothes that you normally get to see in practice. We're just honestly like artistic scientists in the treatment room is how I would describe estheticians. It's fun, but we need our moment to be able to show up in a cute outfit with our boots on. I love that. This has been such an incredible episode, and I feel like there's so much more that I could just pick out of your brain, and I can't wait to talk to you more in Austin this year for sure, if not even before that. all of my guests on the Bright Side of Beauty podcast, I like to ask the exact same question, which is, what, Sarika, is something that is beautiful to you? And that could be literal, it could be philosophical, spiritual, but what is something that is beautiful to you?
So a big reason why my practice is named True Skin Aesthetics is because that's what I feel is one of the most beautiful things that somebody could be, is true in their own skin. I hope to be able to help my patients live freely and authentically within themselves. And I understand that a large part of that can be how somebody looks at themselves in the mirror, at their complexion. And on a surface level, some people might say, oh, well, that's superficial. I'm like, no, it's not. Because if you look good, you feel good, and you can show the rest of the world all of this. So my thing that I think is the most beautiful thing is for people to be able to live authentically in their true skin.
Absolutely. I love that. And I should have asked where the name came from to begin with, but I love that you were able to tie that up so beautifully with a bow. This has been such an honor to have you on the Bright Side of Beauty podcast. Before you go, drop where everybody can find you, your Instagram, your website, whatever you want to drop all your things, pimp yourself out.
Yeah. So I'm most active on Instagram. I have 2 pages. One of them is more of like my personal professional page where I'll do like some teaching stuff. And then the other one is more of my practice, but I do cross post a lot of stuff. So you can find me at Your Houston Esthetician, and estheticians with an E. And then my practices page is called True Skin Aesthetics with an A and the HTX for Houston, Texas. But I'd love to connect with anybody. Follow me there. Send me a message. If you're going to go to a show and I'm going to be there, or you see me on the podium, please come and speak to me afterwards. I love nothing more than to make more friends. And thank you, Delaney, so much for having me on your podcast. This has been so much fun.
It is my honor. I'll catch up with you very soon here in September.
Okay. Yes. Bye, girl.